What is up, Steve here? I hope you are doing well. I've been getting a lot of questions on how is it possible that house prices keep rising in value, but we're seeing turmoil in the markets. So we're going to talk about it. So we're seeing in most areas, closed sales are going down, pending sales are going down. We have sales prices going up. We have total dollar volume is going up. We have days on market going down. We have new listings going up. We have active inventory going up. And we have total month supply of inventory going up. Well, a lot of this has to do with the lagging data. And I've said this in multiple videos where just putting it out there, we cannot rely on the data that we're receiving in real estate because it does lag. So let's look at this more in detail. So back in March, the Fed rate was about 0.2%. And around March 3rd, the mortgage interest rates were 3.76. There was still cheap money in the market for people to buy. Same thing around toward the end of March, 4.42%. It's still under 5%. People are still, the enthusiasm's still there. They're still excited. They're still able to buy a mortgage and they're still comfortable with that mortgage payment. April 7th jumps up a little bit more, 4.72%. Around April, we had the Fed rate jump up to 0.33%. And then here comes April, where it actually tops 5%. So we're in the low fives around April 28th. In May, the Fed jumps up. It was about 50 basis points, so they're at 0.77%. And right now, from May until present day, early July, we're hovering anywhere from 5.5% to 6.5%, depending on your lender, your area. And also right now, the Fed rate is 1.21%. And we're going to anticipate, obviously, the Fed's probably going to increase maybe another 100 basis points. We will see here soon. And anyway, if we look at what's going on in March and April with rates still below 5%, we have to look at the lagging data. So the closings of these are actually going to take place in like May and June, because when you guys are buying real estate, it can take 30 to 60 days to close on it, especially if you're getting financing. So the people that locked in those lower rates in March and April, and they're comfortable with those payments and everything else, they locked in those low rates and they locked in at a high real estate valuation, which is the lagging information that we're talking about. So that brings us to the May-June closings, which are still relatively high in terms of valuations. Anything April, May, June, July, well, more May, June, it's gonna be July, August for that data that comes out, maybe even September. And I probably am going to foresee that data that comes out, we're gonna almost see it flatlined in terms of property valuations in most areas. I think that's gonna be like the cap before we actually see prices start to decline in terms of the data that we're gonna receive. I think we need to keep a close eye on the data for the fall data. So September, October, November, I think is when we're actually going to see prices start to decline. And mark my words, unless the Fed comes out and they completely drop rates and mortgage rates come back down and the Fed starts buying mortgage-backed securities, but with inflation how it is right now, I don't see that happening. So I think September, October, November, we're going to see real estate values on a national level start to actually decline. And at that point in time, mark my words, you're going to see all the media jump on at that point in time talking about property values declining, which is going to lead me into my next segment of this is, are we in a housing bubble? Okay, now that we talked about home values and where they're at currently, I want to talk about the housing bubble altogether. And I know it is debatable, but if we look at this chart, and you guys can Google it and find many other charts similar to this, and there's different terminology in these charts as well, but let's go through it. And also I'm going to give you my opinion as to kind of where I think we are in this market cycle. So obviously we've had artificially low interest rates. We had a lot of money pumping into the system. And that was pretty much the enthusiasm stage. Now, I think that we are peaked out, and obviously we're starting to see that in our local markets here. and we are in a greed phase, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of sellers right now that think that their properties are worth more than they really are. And obviously I saw this in the last real estate recession as well, where, you know, I'm speaking to these sellers, I'm telling them that the market is shifting and they might need to reduce price to get ahead of the curve. So I think that at this point in time, we are in the greed phase, where I believe that we're at the top right here. Now, when the market does start to shift and starts to go down, there is the denial phase. Now, the denial phase, you have people that obviously sellers think that their properties are worth a lot more, and then they're starting to see their neighbors' properties start to sell for less, and then all of a sudden it starts to become an all-out war where people start to reduce price to basically hedge their competitive advantage in terms of pricing, and then we start to see it go down. Now, in a lot of these charts that you'll see, there's kind of a denial phase and then a dip going back up where it's perceived back to normal. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to even see this dip, in my opinion, unless something happens with inflation. And you know, the CPI index just came out and it showed the month of June was actually higher than anticipated. I think it was 9.1%. And I believe the Fed's going to keep increasing rates, and I believe mortgage rates will continue to increase. Now, if the Fed decides to halt that and start bringing rates back down, which I don't think they will, and let's say that they start to quantitative ease again in terms of buying mortgage-backed securities, which I don't think that they will, but let's say they did do that, then we might see an uptick because maybe mortgage rates may start to go down, and then people will start getting back into the market, and then it'll be perceived back to normal. If that does happen, in my opinion, it's only going to last for so long, just as you're seeing it right here, and then eventually we'll see it drop down, and then we'll go back to the fear and then surrender. Basically, people are going to realize that they're underwater in some cases, or they're going to have to let properties go for a loss, and then eventually get down to despair where the real estate market bottoms out. But my opinion, I think we're up here. I don't think that the Fed has much of an option because of high inflation, that I think we're just going to skip this area altogether, and I think we're just going to go like this. Anyway, that's my 2 cents for today. I appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for being here.